In the heat of war, no place was ever as fiercely contested as Stalingrad. By the summer of 1942, the city had become more than just a strategic target. It was a symbol, and for the Germans, a city to be taken at any cost. Stalingrad, on the banks of the Volga River, was heavily industrialized. The Germans knew if they could take it, they could sever the Soviet supply lines and deal a devastating blow to the Eastern Front. But what they didn't anticipate was the fury with which the Soviet soldiers and civilians would defend it. From the moment the first bomb fell, the battle became a struggle of attrition. Streets, factories, and apartments became fortresses. The fighting wasn't just between armies. It was hand-to-hand combat in the ruins. The Germans, accustomed to swift victories, were unprepared for the brutal urban warfare that awaited them. As the months wore on, the situation grew desperate for the invaders. The winter's cold set in, and the German forces, already stretched thin, were surrounded by a Soviet counteroffensive. Trapped in the city, with no supplies and no hope of relief, the Germans began to surrender in droves. Stalingrad marked the turning of the tide in the war. It was the beginning of the end for the German army on the Eastern Front. The Soviet victory not only shattered the myth of German invincibility, but it also unleashed a wave of counterattacks that would push the invaders all the way back to Berlin.